I hoped, as I was growing up, that the world was getting better in every way. I just assumed it was. I think it's part of the post-war agreement of people. But I am very, very disappointed constantly that actually my daughters are less safe than I was. I went out and I stood on the Reclaim the Night and out on the streets when I was a student. But actually for my daughters who are students or have just left university, they have been less safe in university and on the streets and in the workplaces they're going to and online than I was at their age. And that really depresses me. We are going in the wrong direction. So I'm very glad of this debate to pull us up short and to reconfirm and affirm our actions to make the world better for my daughters and their daughters, and not only women and girls here in this country, but all around the world. Violence is all pervasive on our streets in a way that we just take for granted as women. When I realised that men don't have to worry about holding keys in their hands as they walk about, I've just done it all my life, very instinctively, and realising that there would be a freedom if I didn't have to worry as I walked around was a really alarm moment for me and showed me the difference that there should be in our world. I really would like to congratulate everyone who went out in Roehampton for a Reclaim the Streets and a demonstration against violence against women and girls by men. Just a couple of days ago, they marched through the streets of Roehampton all together. It started last year and is an even bigger demonstration this year. And it was men and women standing together in our local community, speaking out about something that we want to see an end of. Violence is at an all-time high, and convictions for rape are at an all-time low. And so reporting that rape, feeling able to go and report violence for women and girls is just not a possibility, and that has got to change as well. There is a culture of misogyny, of sexism and predation that we need to address. But I'd like to just highlight some very specific issues that Refuge is calling for changes that are needed. First is funding for specialist services, sustainably funding specialist gender-based violence services, including accommodation-based and community-based domestic abuse services. Not everyone is going to go to the police, but that more women are likely to go to those specialist services. The second one would be about tech abuse. And I know the online safety bill is due to come up for conversation. We, I hope, as members here, will be speaking out in those debates in terms of making women more safe. But requiring Ofcom to develop a violence against women and girls code of practice in the online safety bill would be a huge step forward. The third is an area that has been raised by the member for Bristol South, and that is about cost of living. Creating an emergency domestic abuse fund is something that Refuge are calling for, because perpetrators are taking advantage of the cost of living crisis to increase economic abuse and control. It will be worse this winter than ever before. And fourthly, criminal justice practitioner training, to require all criminal justice practitioners, including the police, to participate in in-depth domestic abuse training. This happens in some areas, but not all. It's a postcode lottery at the moment. And I would add to that to require police to give back phones to rape victims and to clear the evidence they need from phones and to give them back. Because I know of many women who have gone in, reported a rape, but then had their phone taken off them for months and months. And that's just adding to the abuse that they have felt they have suffered. And I'd like to move on to talk about international action that we can take as well. I went to the PSVI conference. I should like to declare that I'm a vice chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on PSVI and the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Domestic Violence and Abuse. And I'm very glad that the conference was held this week, and it really put an international spotlight from so many countries onto this issue. The scale of the issue of the number of women and girls who are suffering sexual violence, who are survivors, who are going through this right now is extraordinary. So that devastating effect I heard from women from Somalia, DRC, Ukraine, Colombia, Bosnia, all over the world this is happening. And they all said, no more just words. No more speeches, ironically, in speeches. But they were quite right. We now need actions. We need an increase in funding for sexual and gender-based violence action in humanitarian relief. Currently, that's less than 1% of humanitarian relief. We need to increase funding for stopping the war in the first place. So that's the Conflict Prevention Fund. And there have been just enormous cuts at the moment. And to finalise, Madam Chair, there have been 60% cuts to Somalia 90% cuts to Africa's Sahel region. We cannot cut, on the one hand, from the aid budget and expect that conflict prevention to continue. It just will not. We have to back up our words on sexual violence by backing up our peace-building work, and I hope to hear from the Minister what he will be doing that, so that all women and girls, wherever they live, are safe. Thank you.